The 2024 Photo Annual is made possible by the Gwinnett County Public Library's Learning Lab, a creative makerspace and digital playground provided by your local library. The Learning Labs offer an array of resources and equipment for photographers and artists alike, including digital cameras, computers with the Adobe Creative Suite, studio lights, backdrops, photo printers, film scanners, and much more. To learn more about the Learning Labs, visit our website in the description box or visit your local Gwinnett County Public Library. This year's juror is Makita Lewis. Lewis is an Atlanta-based photographer, curator, and experimental media artist whose work aims to engage the public with art and art history in new creative ways. This video is a recording of our juror talk, which took place on October 12, 2024. If you'd like to view any of the images, you can visit the virtual exhibition link provided below, or visit the Duluth branch before the exhibition closes on November 15, 2024.
I invite you all to join me in giving her a warm welcome to this year's juror, Makita Lewis.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Okay, so I am going to talk to you guys like you're my family. So this is not like a formal situation. This is gonna be very conversational and as casual as you all feel comfortable as being with me. Please raise your hands in the middle of me talking if you have comments or questions or something, because I am an anxious girl and feeling like we're engaging and I'm not just talking at you will make me feel more comfortable. So, I mean, I guess there ain't really nothing to say about this slide, huh? That's all really straightforward information. But yeah, I guess before I get into it too hard, I just want to like double thank all those people that Brandon rattled off. Like, Brandon and Tanya especially are the ones that have been dealing with my emails and my like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I sent this so late. So super thank you for your patience. So yeah, I guess I'll get started. Do I hit this thing? Does it go? Yeah. Okay, so the way this is gonna work is I laid these images out in this slideshow, sort of like as they're grouped together out in the library. So, you know, this isn't like on its own slide because it's extra more special than all the other images. It's just literally laid out like on its own pillar outside. But yeah, so this is Guardian Hard Tints, which I have some things to say about that I think is kind of interesting, by Andre Ramos-Woodard. I love Andre's work in general. I actually met him because he was one of the participants in the virtual portfolio review that ACP does every year. And he makes a lot of work about just existing in the world as a Black queer man, especially in the South. And what I think is interesting about this image is knowing, I guess, the context of Andre's work and the series of images that he submitted. I'm curious about whether or not hard tints is a typo. That might not be, but it reminds me, if it's not, it reminds me of hortense, which is like, I'm sure some of you might already know this, but hortense is like a, typically it's a feminine name, and one of the etymological ancestors of the word is hortus, which means garden. And I just thought that was really interesting because him talking about just finding ways to seek meaning and purpose in life and to sort of affirm himself in the world the way that he exists is kind of similar to nurturing a garden, right? And, oh wait, can I cuss? This is a family program? I should not cuss, right? Okay, all right, great. Nurturing a garden is really difficult. It's really hard. Well, I don't know, maybe, are there green thumbs in here? Are y'all good at keeping plants alive? Yep, no, yes, no, yes. Okay, that makes some of us, not including me. But it's hard, right? It's difficult and it's work. And so I really appreciate that. Also because and when you go out there, you'll be able to see it better, but the like image in the bottom left corner of the work reminds me of like my family from North Carolina. So I'm like, is this an auntie? Is this your grandma? Like your relationships with your, well, you stared at the picture long enough. But you know, like who is this person to you that they might be a part of you affirming yourself and existing in the way that you feel comfortable in the world, right? Okay, sorry. Thanks for listening to Level, guys. Okay, so these 4 images, I actually think, let's see. Is this all the ones in the intro? Okay.
Yeah.
These are all the ones in the intro? Okay. So these 4 images, and as I was like laying images out, a lot of it was, well, I can't say a lot. There's like multiple reasons and like themes for putting certain things together and putting them in certain places. There's a few groupings where my focus was a lot on sort of like the color palettes and the gradients that had a good conversation with each other. And then some of them are, in my spicy brain mind, are kind of related to the area that they're in, but we'll get there later. So yeah, these 4 images, let me see, sorry, looking at my notes, not a very good note reader, oh my gosh. Please bear with me, guys. These 4 images is interesting because the theme of the submissions this year was resilience, right? And so I think, interestingly, a lot of artists will submit to something and I guess overall, I was hoping to sort of look for images that had some especially potent relationship to resilience, not just like general overcoming or, you know, things like that. But not that those things aren't important, but yeah. The 3rd image from the, is this my left? Yeah, the 3rd image from the left, I've Been Buked, is named after this Mahalia Jackson song, which I thought was really interesting. And when I first read the title, I thought of rebuked, and I was like, I don't want to be rebuked. That sounds, what? But I was thinking about the song, and the lyrics to the song are saying, like, I've been buked in terms of, like, there have been many places in society where people have told me I was wrong or tried to admonish me or tried to correct me about, like, the way that I exist. But for Mahalia, her relationship to God and her relationship to religion and spirituality is something that like helped her ground herself. So that was really poignant to me. Next slide. So this group of images is over by the printing station. And I really like these because that station tends to, for most of the annuals, like Brandon was showing me the past like layouts, and for most of the annuals, they tend to favor a salon hang for that area because the wall right there is a little, I don't know what you call it, rectangular, tiny, yeah. But I like that the collage composition of each of these sort of mimics the salon hang already. I'm also a girl that's super into like alternative process stuff, and like each of these artist submissions, they all had some sort of commentary on like alternative process or distortion of images. The top right image looks like photo emulsion to me, which I have experiments with before, and let me tell you, it is not easy. Like, it's so finicky, and it's so, but like when you get it right, and it's amazing. But it's the kind of process where you have to, what's what I'm looking for? Sort of subject yourself to a lack of control. You can only control the process so much. So yeah, that was my thinking behind like grouping these 3 together. So these 2 photos are next to the printing station, and the trade, which is the one in the bottom left here, I thought was really interesting. In Elise's artist statement, they said something about trying to very literally illustrate putting yourself in someone's shoes, which I'm gonna be honest with you, when I first looked at this image, I did not, like, that was not the first phrase that came to mind for me. But also, I'm generally a horror movie girly. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's giving like It Follows, or like, you know, like something. I'm super into this. Like if it's like creepy, and not just because it's creepy season right now, yay October. But like I'm super into it. But I really love it. And the image next to it was just about, Darren's artist statement said something about sort of capturing these fading places in like rural environments. And I don't know what BJ's is, but I'm assuming it's like it must be some like public place that's like old or not, maybe slightly in disrepair. His artist statement did mention something about like capturing places that are in disrepair or are abandoned. So I mostly liked these images next to each other because of the light and shadow play. I thought that they had a really good conversation. Oh wait, does anybody have questions or comments, concerns? Okay, all right. So these next two slides are actually like they're all the photos that are on the Makerspace windows, but because there's 8 of those photos, I think, I didn't want to put them all in one slide. So this is the first half. So this was probably one of my favorite spaces to lay out because of the photos I chose, and basically my thinking for this, I was honestly going for this sort of gradient of color palettes that are adjacent to like a gradient of emotions. So when you view the photos on the Makerspace windows, like from the front to the back to the, what is next to that, the study room? Yeah. They start with this like mostly white image, and so the color palette sort of goes like a little darker, a little more aggressive, a little more rageful as you go down the line. And I think that it starts with this series of images that speaks to like what's what I'm looking for? A desire maybe to find your place, and then also with like reverence of loss, which I think there's something really interesting between those two things. Maybe if any of you talk to me afterwards, I'll have more words to explain what that interesting thing is that I think is in the middle. But yeah, so these are the first 4 photos on the Makerspace. And then, oh, I've got a pointing here, or there. Okay, great. No. Did I skip this one? Okay. Yeah, so these are the last 4. And I'm sure that you can tell from like the images on the first slide how like the color palette gets a little darker towards the end. The last image is called Emotional Archaeology of Woman. And I'm so into that sort of like quiet, rageful feeling with this like feminine imagery, or honestly androgynous imagery. I went through a period of time where I was kind of, well, I was about to say obsessed, but that sounds a little extreme. I was a little interested, I guess, in this idea of angry women. And I was thinking about The Taming of the Shrew. And, oh my God, what is her name? Kate? Do you remember that book, Brandon? That play? Right, the older sister was angry. Hello? Okay, great. The older sister was super angry, and so that was supposed to be the reason why like the father couldn't marry her off. But she had a reason for the chip on her shoulder. I don't know, it was just very interesting. So I'm gonna stop babbling. We're gonna go to the next slide. Hello? Okay. And then this image is on the study room window. So after you pass all of those photos that kind of take you on a journey, is this me? Am I doing this? Is this my fault? Me and the projector don't like each other? Bad vibes? Okay. Yeah, so this image is on the study room window, and I liked these submissions because there's something that's both like saccharine and terrifying about them. In the artist statement, they said something about like they tend to do this thing where they cover their face. They do like self-portraiture using themselves as a reference. And they tend to cover their face because they want to express whatever it is they're trying to convey to the viewer through body language only. And so I think that's an interesting sort of way to wield your autonomy as an artist, as a photographer, as being your own subject, to sort of set up this barrier that's like, I'm here, but you can't like look at my face. So I think that's really interesting, and I like the idea of putting it after that last like really dark, rageful photo on the makerspace. Okay, so I wanted to highlight no simple tasks really quickly, just because. Well, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. I just like the artist's statement was basically explaining their images to be illustrations of like living with chronic illness and chronic disability. And so they were just explaining that like some days are good and some days are bad and some days are in the middle, but you kind of just have to keep going as long as you're alive or you're breathing. Like if I wake up today and I'm in pain, I guess I'm just in pain. Or if I wake up today and it's okay, then it's okay. And I'll make myself breakfast or put my shoes on or like whatever I gotta do, right? So yeah, I really appreciated mostly the color palette of these two together. Also, Alexander is not here because they don't live here. Right. So Alexander, wherever you are, I hope I'm saying your name right. Their whole series of photos that they submitted was called Pages, and they were basically just like, this is about sort of turning the pages of your life and figuring out who you are and who you want to be, and keeping an account, I guess, of the twists and turns that your life has taken. But mostly I like these two together for the color palette. Okay, so I think this, let me see. Are these all the photos over there by the? Right. Okay, so also a color palette situation here, as you can see. I really, really loved this image by Savannah Calhoun, and honestly, I think the rest of their submissions might have been along the same lines. But does anybody in here do tarot? Read tarot cards? No? Y'all are looking at me like, what is that? So I really appreciate the title being 9 of Cups RX, which I'm reading as prescription. And the 9 of Cups represents like, getting your wildest desires, blah, blah, blah. But if the 9 of Cups is reversed, it's supposed to represent you having unrealistic wishes and desires that are unlikely to come true. And in Savannah's artist statement, they wrote about illustrating nostalgia as, what did they say? They wrote about illustrating nostalgia as problematic, which I have thought about a lot, and I feel like sometimes I feel like a nutso lady for saying this out loud because other people are just like, what are you talking about? But I think that there's, like culturally and socially, I feel like we're definitely in this moment where people are leaning a lot into nostalgia, more so than usual. And I think it's because nostalgia feels safe, right? Like it already happened. You knew what that was. You did it. You had fun. Whatever you're nostalgic about, whether it's games or it's comic books or it's just a time or a place, or when you were 7 and you didn't have bills, you literally just worrying about like the crust being cut off of your sandwiches, right? Like, so that's really comforting to like be there. And then when you're sitting there daydreaming and you're thinking about it and you're leaning into this world that you're trying to make for yourself that's just that same thing all over again, you don't have to deal with reality, right? Which I think sort of ties into the image below it, which is called confrontation. And honestly, one of the reasons too that I kind of wanted this over there, that's a teen area, right? Yeah, one of the reasons I kind of wanted this over there is like I was thinking about, I'm not perfect. I'm not always good at like, emotionally expressing myself and vulnerable communication, but I'm much better at it now at 33 than I was at like 15, And I just remember being a teenager and like, if anyone had been trying to talk to me about being honest about what I want or speaking to people directly or just confronting my feelings directly, I would have been like, what are you saying to me? Drop me off at drama club and leave me alone. Like, I don't know. So I just, not to be all preachy to like teenagers or anything, but like vulnerability is hard and it's worth it. Yeah. So color palette, other conversational things happening here. The photo in the top, top right, is the artist illustrating or talking about like their community in China that's been sort of isolated because of urban development taking place closer to the city, away from where they live. And so because of that, like all of the people in their neighborhood have had to resort to, meeting each other at a river that's nearby or taking their dogs for walks together, et cetera, to sort of find that kind of community and intimacy that they're looking for. And I think that that's something that's sort of echoing across the world and across countries, like this feeling of isolation and displacement that's, what's what I'm looking for? It's sort of driven by development, right? Especially in Atlanta, like I call myself half Lantan because I actually came here from San Antonio, but I've been here since I was 14. So I am absolutely in love with Atlanta. Like all the people I know, the skills I've learned, like all the places that are important to me have happened here. And so as I'm, going about my daily life and watching this rapid gentrification and watching artists getting pushed out of artist spaces and watching neighborhoods getting uprooted, it's really jarring. And it also encourages me to hold on to the people and relationships that I can. So yeah, okay, sorry, talked enough about this slide. I actually probably talked too much, sorry guys. Yeah, so Ibrahim's images, I think I have two, do I have three? I have at least two, okay, yeah, I have two of Ibrahim's images, and I really liked them because so much of them are just capturing these really intimate, quiet moments between people. And these little hands reaching for each other, it's very sweet, but it also made me think of like, I don't know if this has ever happened to y'all. Have y'all ever been like a public bathroom and somebody's child is in the next stall with them and they're like playing, like goofing around and like putting their little hand under the stall door and you're like, can I please use the bathroom in peace without like your child? And like in the moment it feels jarring, but also like, I don't know, just seeing a tiny hand and being like, wow, like you literally you have not been fully acquiesced into like whatever quiet social obligations that adults are in. You're literally just out here vibing. That's great. Keep doing it. Keep doing it as long as you can, because at a certain point you're gonna grow up and people are gonna tell you have to get a job. It's terrible. It's terrible. So yeah, I really appreciated their illustration of like these intimate moments. And then here's another piece by Savannah Calhoun. And again, she's sort of illustrating that whole thing with nostalgia and yeah. Where are these? be. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I think these for me were also color palette choices in terms of grouping them together. Um, and also, especially with I'm Here and Not Here and Lawrenceville by Amanda Summerlin, um, there's something between the two of them, like this double exposure thing that I'm Here and Not Here does, that sort of reminds me of that scene from Back to the Future when he starts to disappear. Have y'all seen Back to the Future? Are y'all young? Oh my gosh. When he starts to disappear and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm not real. And he has to like go back and do these things to make sure that like his parents actually stay together. But just that feeling of like not fully being in your body and not fully feeling attached to wherever you are. And then Amanda's image from this series that's, again, sort of this reverence for what was here or who was here or what happened here. So I really like the conversation between those two images together. And then these two are the water fountain and the, what's that, the phone right there? Yeah. Also a color palette thing, but kind of like on opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Because this is like fully black and white and then like full bloom color. Also, I really, really love the angle of Against All Odds. It kind of reminds me of, do y'all know who Roy De Carava is? No? Really amazing Black photographer whose work that I've recently become super obsessed with. But he does a lot of like black and white images like that, and a lot of them are from very, very far away. And for me, they sort of illustrate this miniature feeling that you have, you know, if you look at pictures of the Earth from space, or when you think about all the things that are happening around you and you feel like small and powerless to change anything, but you're not. So, yeah. And then I think I have one more. Okay, yeah, so these last two images actually, I mean, they're like next to each other, but they're not. Like in the same area, but they're not right next to each other. So again, a matriarch's blessing, things like this are tender for me. So I live with my mom and my grandma. My grandma is 91. She pretty much runs everybody, not with an attitude, but just because she's grandma, like of course she does. And she is, I think at this point, she's the oldest living person in my close family. And everyone treats her like it, which is both with reverence and also with like, oh, she's been alive the longest. She's got to know the answer to this family tea. Let me call her at 7:30 in the morning and ask her about it. And like, we're just in the house hearing her just like, you know, telling everybody's business or not. You know, sometimes she tries to be coy. It's fine. So I just really love documentation of like our matriarchs and our elders, and generally just am super into a conversation of care for them and how we can influence like the infrastructure of society and culture to honor them, and not in some super surface way, you know? And then this last photo, which is New Growth, oh my gosh, y'all are gonna think I'm so corny, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. I decided to put this photo in the kids area because I love that it's a little sprout. I don't know, I just feel like, you know what I mean? Like it's right there. And also because like, I think if you think of, I guess, viewing the whole thing in kind of a circle-ish, right? If you go all the way to the end from the entrance and then you like look to your left, it's like, oh, look at this little bright spot at the end, you know? It kind of reminds me of Children of Men when they were like, oh, there's like one woman left that's about to have a kid, oh my God. Like, I don't know, just, anyway, yeah. Yeah, so I think that's all the babbling I have to do. I don't have a pretty closing slide for you. Yeah. Thanks for listening to me, guys.